How's it everyone? Jacques, we're back with part 2 of the halfway year review of the Triumph Rocket 3. So just as a quick recap, in part 1 I spoke more about the history and how Triumph's gone around evolving and developing machines, and more some of the modern history with a new owner, a new take and so forth. So if you didn't see that, go and check that video out. I think there's some useful or at least entertaining content in there. So we also said I'm going to speak around the tires, the shape and the profile. So life doesn't always pan out the way you want. So I recorded that previously but couldn't conclude everything. So I'll have an insert around that, tire pressures and so forth, somewhere in this video, maybe now. And then
Morning everyone, we're going for a quick ride, so this is part 2. I said I'll quickly talk about gear and so forth. So before I go out for a ride, first thing I do is check the tires. I use a digital pressure gauge. This one is for vehicles, so it will take 4 readings. What I do is the left hand side is my cold readings, and the right hand side readings is when I'm done riding. So you would see the front I need to check again, but that's typically my riding style and differential before I go. So a very useful tool. Tire pressures and your bike setup, the way you ride, the conditions and so forth will make a massive difference in the motorcycle's handling. So we talked about the tire profile. So the rear tire, to put this in perspective, is a 240. So you will see it has got a bit of a flatter area. This is from here onwards. That's what I refer to as that tipping point, and the moment you get there, the bike will ride a whole lot easier. And you'll see we go to the edge quite easy and quite quickly. So this is more of a flatter shape tire profile. It is a 50-inch on a 16 rim, and then the front is a what's this? A 80 profile, so it's higher on a 17-inch rim. And we spoke about that that V shape the tire has got. So you will see here very steep angles on the front tire. Let me come back a bit. Also, the interesting thing, this tire or this bike is front tire is set off 5 millimeters to the right hand side of the bike if you're sitting on it, and that is partly to counter for the drive shaft, or not the drive shaft, the engine crank going this way. So you'll see if you start the bike, it pulls to the one side because of the engine pull, and the shaft drives in the other direction to counterbalances, in conjunction with this 5 millimeter offset. So gear, helmet, I use Cardo. It's a communication system. This is a Sprint HD. It's an entry level. So for me and the passenger, the more modern or the later models has got a mesh communication for up to, I don't know, 16 riders. I don't ride in groups. For me, communication with a passenger is a whole lot more important. You can listen music on this. I make use of a 360 camera. So I actually record on my phone through Bluetooth, through the mic, my voice, and then I blend the 2 images together, but we'll get to that when we get to the ride. So I'm going out for a quick ride to go and buy some biltong before the South Africa rugby game and have some fun. I'll do the videos on the gear when I get back. And then I want to start talking about the motorcycle. My views of it, and that's it. So, and then we'll go on a ride and we'll talk about a couple more other things like gear. I've previously recorded footage around the D3 armor and the suit, so I'll have little inserts and maybe some voiceovers as I ride to describe some of these things. This motorcycle, at least for me, always start at the front wheel. So for me, it's a big, bulky front wheel and assembly. There's some quality components on there. So, and I do this to try and give you a sense of the dimension of the machine. And so it's a large front wheel. That front wheel absorbs a lot of the road little bumps and stuff. High quality brakes on there, the Brembos, big bulky forks. The clamps are nice and bulky. Two huge headlights. This is typically what fit on a single motorcycle. They've got two of them, so the light distribution on this motorcycle is very, very good. But once again, as I say, don't travel faster than what you can see with your lights and slightly back. I don't really drive at night, but I have twice when I got the motorcycle. Then after the service, when I asked them to adjust the lights, I took it for another ride. So it's got a good spread, good visibility, but once again, stick within those limits. So the front forks is also a very aggressive stance, and that's typically to give it this cruiser type of look. But if you look closely, the assembly here is tilted, so that ensures that even though the forks are slightly forward, they tilted back in, and so that it changes the handling of this size and motorcycle dramatically for the good. The other thing is you won't see any wiring on this motorcycle, so that stuff I like. These are coated, braided lines, which is very nice, premium quality stuff. They've got a small little console with all the information on, and other than that you would not see any other thing than you would expect from a machine with its exhaust. So look wise, really fantastic. It's got a wide, low tank. Folks do talk that the tank sometimes feel a bit wide, and that all depends on where you sit on the motorcycle. So let's start at the seat.
First of all, it's a very nicely shaped seat. It's very comfy, at least for my weight. I think I'm 70 kilos, 155 pounds. I think people in the 100 kilometer kilo range plus might find this seat maybe less comfortable, especially on long rides. It's like if you sit on here, it actually takes on the shape of your bum. It sinks in, and it's a very comfy place to be for me. It's also got this little bit of a backrest where the pillions residing. So if you sit back in the seat, it's a nice place, like call it the mini sissy bar, to keep you in place with all the torque you've got on there. So talking about this, so if you sit forward in the seat, obviously if you've got your legs up, your legs are going to be wider, because as you move forward you increase the angle. So a shorter person might find this if they sit forward to reach the bars, and I think it's even worse on the R, where you need to reach a bit more forward for the handlebars. You're going to feel your legs quite apart. If you're a taller rider and you sit back in the seat, obviously now that angle is reduced because your knees come back. The other thing is folk tend to put tank pads on here for protection. I just ride with gear that is never going to have an issue on the paintwork. So while we're on the paintwork, maybe the quality on the painting, the craftsmanship, fit and finish on this machine is excellent. And then the interesting thing, these lines coming over here, these two silver lines, for me they seem to be potentially hand done. I don't know. It is. I'll see if I can insert a close-up picture. How it comes together here doesn't look like typical painting. I might be wrong. I know they've got a very talented guy that does pinstriping on the Gold Series line of motorcycles, but these are unique paint jobs. So if you look at Triumph through the years, they had a platform and they keep involving it, different makes, models, as they increase the engine capacity. And Triumph tries to keep their motorcycles quite unique in a limited run. So you would see they would have only a couple amount of motorcycles done in this paint scheme, which is called Carnival Red. They would have a limited run with this motorcycle in a chrome edition, and so forth. And in 2024, I'm quite sure they're going to come out with a couple more limited edition paint jobs. And hence I think this is maybe that gentleman that does that pinstriping just on those two lines, because it is quite unique and it is pretty. Back to the riding position, I've removed my forward controls for mid-mount. So one thing you need to take note of, if you've got your boot on here and it is against the exhaust, it will eventually rub off and get some of your boot rubber material onto the exhaust. There's no covers like up here. So just something to take note of. This guard actually helps a lot, otherwise you've got to tilt your foot in, but if you've got a tendency of riding like that, or you've got big wide boots, just consider that. It's easy to remove. I use a little bit of 0000 steel wool and I rub that off. So that's something to note. My controls I've got in the uppermost position. It's got another setting 10mm down. That increases the ground clearance on this machine significantly. And when I spoke about this machine's ability in cornering and so forth, yes, it's not the 600, but it is very, very good, extremely underrated. So the paintwork, these exhausts are nice. I like the seating position. We spoke about the tires. One thing I do want to mention is these machines, you can fit them with a quick shifter, a shift assist up and down. They are spectacular. They work very, very good. But I want to share the experience I've picked up. I haven't got one. I like being in manual mode. So when I got this motorcycle, my driving habit was, because it's got a slipper clutch and it's torque assisted. If I ride solo, you just drop 1 or 2 gears, that slipper clutch will come in, and this machine's engine braking ability is astonishing because it's so large. But if you have got a pillion on there, if you drop a couple of gears, you're going to get head slaps and very upset passengers. So I've learned to, over time, because I also enjoy it, to match throttle and engine revs to road speed to make it smoother. That's essentially what a shift assist does. But what happens is, if you go through the gears and you match the revs up to that initial bit, it's like the motorcycle, I don't want to call it a neutral, but there's an area where there's no resistance. The machine just goes forward. And with this mass, you don't scrub off speed. So engine braking and full front brakes applied gives you a lot of braking force, especially, and decreases your braking distance. So, having said that, if you've got a quicker shift on, because it doesn't know what you're doing, if you're on the brakes and you just keep shifting, it's doing that rev matching, and the bike's momentum is not slowed down with engine braking. Something to take note of. Again, once again, you can do the shifting manual if you need to, but once again, it's habits, and it's a great comfort having a shift assist. Awesome. Other thing I see a lot of people, especially the journos, don't get right is the cruise control. If you want to disable cruise control without clutch or brake, you do a negative roll on the throttle. This is drive-by-wire. So you go from where it's static like this and just roll it forward. It disengages the cruise control and the bike goes into a momentum. So there's not a sudden deacceleration. So the negative roll on the throttle to fix that. Guys, then they are stunning machines. They are definitely not as heavy as people say they are. This bit of my driveway is level, and then it inclines. Not a lot, but the motorcycle is static. I'm not a tall or very muscular guy, so they're on my toes, and I'm gonna just start pushing, and we're going up the hill here. So you can see that, and we just roll back. So these machines are heavy, but they are not that difficult to maneuver. Keep that in mind. It's confidence. Obviously, if this motorcycle gets tipped over at some point in time, there's very few people, if any, on this planet that's going to keep it upright. There's females, Kate, in the UK, she drives one. That's that. Wonderful machines, they ride nice. Some of my thoughts on it. The rear brake, I do hear people say, oh, they fade and they woody. I haven't experienced this on mine. What I do know is you've got ABS. Rear braking is not going to provide much power. It just locks up the wheel. But with ABS, it just doesn't allow it to lock it up, and it just do what it needs to be, and then it feels woody and there's no feedback because it's essentially just slipping. Rear brake on a motorcycle cycles typically is 80-20. On this machine I think it's even worse. It's most likely 90-10, if not worse, because of the mass and what you need to stop. Exhaust system. These exhaust systems stock standard from the factory is absolutely amazing. They are quiet enough that you don't stand out, and they sound good when you get going. Anything over 110 decibels hurts your ears. If you've got loud pipes on, you've got a helmet, you're going down the road, all of that wind noise, it is exceeding 110 decibels. You're hurting your ears. So even with these pipes on, I drive with earplugs. I'll show them when we go out on the ride. Same when with a negative throttle roll, when you go through the mode switching between sport, rain, rider, road or whatever, when you go into a different mode, the computer tells you to roll off, and that is that negative roll. So it cancels the programming for the throttle and then accepts the new programming, the new map. So that's how you switch between the maps. Other than that, anything else that comes up, customization. I keep talking about customization, setting the bike up or down. If I turn my handlebars, the clearance here is about 3/4 of an inch. So these bars can actually loosen them here and you can move them forward. That will bring them slightly up. So if you are a taller guy and you don't want to sit close to it, you can move the bars maybe a little bit up and forward, and that would allow you to come further back on the seat. Just suggestions, at least from me. Once again, before I go out on the ride, I just check all the oils. It's got windows everywhere. Just check them, off we go. So, see you guys on the ride. I'll have a couple of inserts.
So this is the D3 armor. I'm going to take a steel chisel and I'm going to softly press down on this, and you will see how the steel chisel just sinks into the material. Okay, so I am going to take this hammer, put it on this chisel, and we're gonna smack it. I just first want to just level it like that. Here we go. The more energy that goes in this, the harder it gets.
In between around the armor, as I said, and then we'll do another review at the end of the year. See you guys on the road.